In 2012, a shy 17-year-old named Jonathan Antoine walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage, unaware that his life was about to change forever. Standing beside his duet partner, Charlotte Giaconelli, he looked visibly nervous. Shoulders hunched, hands tightly clasped, eyes filled with doubt. The judges exchanged uncertain glances, and Simon Cowell openly questioned whether Jonathan should even sing. Then the music began. As Jonathan opened his mouth to perform the prayer, the atmosphere shifted instantly. His voice, rich, operatic, and unexpectedly powerful, filled the theater with emotion. The audience fell silent. Judges stared in disbelief. By the final note, the room exploded into applause, leaving even Simon Cowell speechless. In moments, Jonathan transformed from a nervous teenager into an unforgettable global sensation. A childhood marked by silence and cruelty. Jonathan Antoine was born on January 13, 1995, in Chigwell, Essex, into what appeared to be an ordinary family life. Yet beneath the surface, his childhood was filled with loneliness and emotional wounds. From as young as 4 years old, Jonathan became a target for bullying, mocked for his weight, his sensitivity, and the gentle nature that made him different from other children. School hallways became places of anxiety rather than joy, and playgrounds felt unsafe. Words, once spoken, lingered long after the laughter faded. Jonathan rarely fought back. Instead, he withdrew inward, learning early how to survive quietly. Music became his refuge. When the world felt too loud or cruel, he hummed melodies to himself, letting sound soothe the ache words had caused. His mother, Julie, often noticed him sitting alone in his room, creating little tunes without realizing he was doing something extraordinary. He was teaching himself to heal. A mind that heard music differently. What no one understood during Jonathan's early years was that his mind worked differently from most children's. By the age of 6, he had developed perfect pitch, an incredibly rare ability that allows someone to identify or recreate musical notes without reference. He could hear a song once and remember it entirely, not just the melody but the emotional nuance behind it. Teachers later described him as a musical savant, someone whose gift arrived naturally and effortlessly, yet carried an emotional cost. While music flowed freely, social connections did not. Jonathan often felt out of sync with the world around him, as if he belonged somewhere else entirely. Music wasn't just a talent, it was his language, his safe place, and his way of making sense of emotions he couldn't always explain. The moment his talent was truly seen. Jonathan's life began to shift when he was around 10 years old, thanks to a substitute music teacher who happened to overhear him singing during a school choir audition. What the teacher heard was astonishing. A voice far deeper and more resonant than anyone would expect from a child his age. It sounded mature, controlled, and emotionally charged. Word spread quickly through the school, and for the first time, Jonathan wasn't being noticed for how he looked or how quiet he was, but for what he could do. Soon, he began entering local competitions, and at the Stratford and East London Music Festival, he won first place, earning a standing ovation that lasted nearly 4 minutes. For a boy who had spent years trying to disappear, being seen, truly seen, was both thrilling and terrifying. Pressure, promise, and the Royal Academy. At just 15 years old, Jonathan was accepted into the Royal Academy of Music's junior program, one of only 23 students selected from thousands of applicants. It was an extraordinary achievement, yet it came with immense pressure. Surrounded by prodigies and rising stars, Jonathan often felt like an imposter, despite his undeniable talent. Panic attacks and self-doubt followed him into rehearsals and performances, whispering that he didn't belong. But music remained his anchor. Every time he sang, something inside him settled. It was during these years that he met Charlotte Giaconelli, a fellow student whose confidence complemented his vulnerability. Where Jonathan hesitated, Charlotte encouraged. Where he doubted, she believed. Together they formed not just a duet, but a partnership built on trust. Stepping onto Britain's Got Talent. When the opportunity to audition for Britain's Got Talent came, Jonathan nearly walked away. Years of bullying had carved deep grooves of fear into his mind, and the idea of public judgment felt unbearable. He worried about how he looked, how he would be perceived, and whether the world would laugh again. Charlotte refused to let him quit. She reminded him of his gift and stood beside him when he needed strength the most. That audition changed everything. As Jonathan sang, his nervousness melted away, replaced by clarity and power. The performance went viral almost instantly, watched by millions across the world. Although they finished second in the competition, Simon Cowell signed them to a £1 million record deal. A life-altering moment that validated Jonathan's voice in a way nothing ever had before. Fame, without inner peace. Success came quickly. Their albums Together and Perhaps Love sold over 250,000 copies, and Jonathan found himself performing on international stages. Yet fame did not erase his internal struggles. Anxiety lingered quietly behind applause, and insecurity still crept in when the lights dimmed. Jonathan smiled for cameras while battling self-doubt in private. The world saw a rising star. He still saw the bullied child inside himself. Music had opened doors, but healing required something deeper. Understanding who he was beyond the voice everyone adored. Standing alone for the first time. In 2014, Jonathan and Charlotte announced they were going their separate ways. For Jonathan, the decision was terrifying. Charlotte had been his emotional anchor, the person who believed in him before the world did. But he knew that to grow, he had to face his fears alone. His first solo album, Tenore, topped the UK classical charts, making him the youngest tenor ever to achieve that milestone. He went on to perform with legends like Placido Domingo and collaborate with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Each performance strengthened his confidence, not just as a singer, but as a person learning to trust himself. Healing the body and the mind. As Jonathan matured, he began addressing aspects of his life he had long ignored, including his health. After discovering an undiagnosed thyroid condition, he embarked on a journey that led to losing over 70 pounds. Walking 10,000 steps a day became more than exercise. It became meditation, a way to reconnect with his body and quiet his thoughts. Alongside physical change came emotional clarity. Jonathan learned that healing wasn't about perfection but patience. He no longer punished himself for being different. He embraced it. Love, peace, and a life beyond applause. Love entered Jonathan's life in the form of Michelle Doucette, a Canadian woman who brought calm, understanding, and warmth into his world. With her, he built a quieter life, one grounded in authenticity rather than applause. Away from the constant noise of fame, Jonathan discovered balance. Music was still central, but it no longer defined his worth. He was more than a voice. He was a man learning to live fully. The man beyond the music. Jonathan Antoine's story is no longer just about a boy who shocked the world with his voice. It is about resilience, acceptance, and the courage to face one's own truth. From a bullied child who sang to survive to a global artist who now sings to heal others, Jonathan's journey reminds us that talent may open doors, but courage walks through them. His music captured hearts, but it is his humanity, his honesty, vulnerability, and strength that makes his story unforgettable.